The WNBA draft ratings are officially in, and boy, oh boy, do we have some things to talk about.
The elephant in the locker room is Geno Auriemma, the UConn legend and master of the passive-aggressive interview. He's apparently the unofficial president of the Anybody But Caitlin Clark Club. Paige Bueckers' WNBA draft moment, unlike Caitlin Clark's highly publicized selection, drew a muted response. This signifies a significant reality check. The spotlight isn't on everyone. Auriemma's influence seems to suggest that the league's focus isn't solely on the next Caitlin Clark.
For the last few months, the mainstream media, they have tried to convince us that Paige Bueckers is a draw. Me personally, I think she's a star, but I'm not exactly convinced that she is a draw.
Paige Bueckers' draft viewership was a significant letdown, drastically underperforming compared to Caitlin Clark's. While Bueckers drew a respectable 1.3 million viewers, Clark's draft attracted a staggering 2.6 million, double the interest. This isn't a coincidence. The difference highlights the enormous media buzz surrounding Clark, a clear indication of her significant impact. If you're a Caitlin Clark fan, subscribe our channel and drop a CC 100% in the comments below.
You'll find a lot of stars, but there's only a handful of draws. There's only a handful of people over the past 40 or 50 years who had the impact, the drawing power to elevate the product into the mainstream.
Media attempts to anoint Paige Bueckers as the next face of women's basketball are struggling. ESPN's highlight reels, feature interviews, and even the inclusion of Gino Auriemma's signature smirk are desperate attempts to maintain the narrative. However, the stark reality of the numbers remains undeniable. Caitlin Clark is the undisputed draw. Connecticut's mystique and coaching jargon cannot mask the clear preference of viewers. Clark's star power eclipses all others.
Whether or not Paige Bueckers is a star or a draw, that remains to be seen. Judging by the ratings for the Dump Diver draft the other night, Paige Bueckers is not a mainstream draw yet. WNBA drew 1.3 million viewers the other night for the draft on ESPN. Now, that number, it can be credited 100% to Paige Bueckers because every other player involved was completely unknown.
Paige Bueckers' talent is undeniable, but she lacks the star power that draws crowds and dominates sports discourse. Caitlin Clark commands this domain, as evidenced by the draft viewership numbers. A clear statement from the basketball audience. They weren't captivated by the manufactured hype surrounding Bueckers, despite Connecticut's prestige and coach Geno Auriemma's renowned legacy. While Auriemma's critiques once possessed the gravitas of expert analysis, they've lately transitioned into the territory of envious pronouncements. Frankly, Auriemma's celebrated history doesn't translate to comparable star pull for his players in this case.
1.3 million is a great number for the WNBA. It is significantly below what Caitlin Clark drew last year. Matter of fact, it's 50% lower than what Caitlin Clark drew last year.
Just like the passive-aggressive uncle at Thanksgiving, Geno Auriemma has been subtly criticizing Caitlin Clark for 2 seasons now, peppering his commentary with implied disses. It's more back in my day than insightful analysis.
College player like Caitlin was, the delusional fan base that follows her disrespected the WNBA players by saying she's going to go in that league and tear it apart. There were actually odds on she's 3rd or 4th in betting odds on being MVP of the WNBA. These people are so disrespectful and so unknowledgeable and so stupid that it gives women's basketball a bad name. Okay, so the kid was set up for failure right from the beginning.
Geno Auriemma's subtle criticisms of Caitlin Clark have been a running theme, minimizing her accomplishments and implying her fan base is misguided. Now, his prized pupil is being eclipsed by someone who, spoiler alert, didn't need a specific university's jersey to become a national sensation. The UConn PR machine, while still functioning, is showing cracks. The draft broadcast vibe was noticeably off. Interviews stumbled, names were mispronounced, and the overall energy was deflated. The room seemed to acknowledge that this year's event paled in comparison to last year's spectacular performance. Auriemma's team, it seems, is failing to match the star power of previous years.
With Anissa and Rakia. And we are holding it down right now. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. My bad.
It's okay.
Sorry. What?
Go ahead, say your name.
Cheyenne Zellers. I'm so sorry. That is embarrassing. Cheyenne, I apologize by that.
okay.
That's
Even veteran broadcaster Tim Wilson admitted the draft's dramatic drop-off. This year's lacked the star power of last year's historic performance. The league's attempts to create hype fell flat. One star made history, the other felt manufactured. A stark difference, plain and simple.
25 second most viewed WNBA draft of all time with an average of 1.25 million viewers with a peak of 1.46 million viewers, up 119% versus 2023. And I know what the question may be, 2023, 2020. Well, Ben, just out of curiosity, because we're all curious around here, right? We all want to be well informed. What is it compared to the 2020?
Professional sports ratings aren't just numbers. They're a financial lifeline. High ratings translate to lucrative ad deals, sponsorships, and TV contracts. A 49% viewership drop isn't merely a statistic, it's a marketing disaster. It's a boardroom crisis, a tense Zoom call for someone at ESPN, and a serious problem demanding attention. Ratings directly impact revenue streams in the sports world.
It's down 49%. 49% of the audience said, yeah, I'll go watch paint dry instead. In fact, some people, Jason Whitlock, he didn't even realize the WNBA draft took place the other night. He found that out the next morning, that Paige Bueckers and the WNBA draft had actually taken place. Last year, 2.45 million, peaked with 3.09 million, up 307% from the previous high back in 2000.
ESPN and the WNBA invested heavily in promoting Paige, positioning her as the next WNBA superstar. They meticulously replicated the hype surrounding Lisa Leslie, but the public didn't respond. Why would they settle for a copy when the original, Lisa Leslie, was still dominating nightly? Months of breathless coverage and manufactured hype failed to generate the desired excitement. The public recognized the difference between the genuine star power and the manufactured hype. The Clark playbook approach fell flat.
601,000 from 2004. So 2024 was up 307% from 2004. 1.06 million women viewers was the 2024 draft. Now here we go, folks. This is when we get into the nooks, into the crannies, and into the fun.
Social media exploded when ratings dipped. Twitter was ablaze with criticism, mocking the hype surrounding Paige. Comments like "No Caitlyn, no ratings," and tried to replace the sun with a flashlight highlighted the public's dissatisfaction. The public's choice is clear. Caitlin Clark is not just a WNBA player. She is women's basketball. The attempt to create a comparable star failed spectacularly.
Draft, such a big deal. Well, Caitlin Clark was getting drafted. Reason number one, Caitlin Clark getting drafted. Reason number two, why it was such a big deal. Well, Caitlin Clark was going number one overall. And the third reason why, calling a spade here, these three women, Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, Cameron Brink. Perfect storm. A perfect storm, a perfect bill of goods.
And that's precisely what's driving people like Geno Auriemma crazy. It must sting to spend decades building the most iconic brand in women's college basketball, only to watch a player from Iowa steal the thunder. Clark did what no one outside of UConn has done in years. She made women's basketball must-watch television. She transformed regular season games into headline news, making college gyms feel like NBA arena. And she accomplished this without Auriemma's help. In fact, she did it despite the constant side-eye from people like him.
Didn't you tell us that in 2004 it was 601,000? My point exactly. They still haven't rebounded from the days of 2004. They still haven't managed to maintain that same audience from 2004. Until Caitlin Clark showed up. Until Caitlin Clark arrived on the scene, and then they're going to boast about a measly 1.25 million. You guys want to know what's funny about 1.25 million? 1.25 million is closer to the 601,000 in 2004 than it is to the 2.45 million in 2025. We're already closer to 2004 numbers than we were to 2025 numbers.
The WNBA and its media partners are stuck in the past, relying on outdated strategies. They believe they can manufacture a superstar by simply anointing the next face of the league, expecting fans to follow blindly. But charisma and genuine appeal are not manufactured, they are inherent. Caitlin Clark exemplifies this, possessing both in abundance. The problem lies in their failure to recognize and nurture authentic star power.
1 million people disappeared. 1.2 million people, to be fair, disappeared. We can spin that as many ways as we want. The trend is already coming back down. The trend is already coming back down. Juju Watkins next year draft, 1.09 million. Oh, another 1 million view draft. But we went from 2.4 to 1.2 to now 1.09. Who's after Juju? My point exactly. We're already forecasting a 2027 draft of 650,000.
Paige Bueckers may have a bright future in the WNBA, winning titles and earning accolades, but the draft didn't crown her as the league's leader. The true torchbearer, the one forging the new era, is Caitlin Clark. While others cling to the past, like Geno, whose press conferences are filled with dismissive remarks, Clark is busy defining the present and future of the league. Her impact is undeniable. Bueckers' potential is promising, but Clark's presence and performance are fundamentally shaping the league's direction.
Like Caitlin Clark, Paige Bueckers has been embraced with open and hairy arms into the WNBA. Players have embraced her potentially in ways that we don't even know about. More importantly, the mainstream media has embraced her. And I'm starting to wonder if this media-created rivalry that is building between Paige Bueckers and Caitlin Clark will completely overshadow Angel Reese.
When comparing Paige Bueckers and Caitlin Clark, a crucial question often overlooked by the media emerges. What holds more significance? Winning a championship or shattering NCAA records? The mainstream narrative has heavily favored Bueckers' title, portraying it as the pinnacle of achievement. However, this perspective tends to overshadow Clark's remarkable statistical accomplishments. Caitlin didn't merely break records, she obliterated them, setting new standards in college basketball that neither men nor women had achieved before. By focusing solely on championship victories, the media risks diminishing the importance of Clark's groundbreaking performances, which deserve equal recognition for their historical significance and impact on the sport. Both women's contributions to basketball are monumental, and they should be celebrated.
Paige Bueckers across social media for the last 5 years, it feels like. She's an elite female college basketball player. Had some knee injuries that she's rebounded from, but she's healthy right now. So she kind of sits behind Caitlin Clark. And I think that makes her a fade for me because I think the Caitlin Clark shadow is real. I think Caitlin Clark is so dominant in changing the game.
Sure, Paige Bueckers secured a national title for UConn, and that achievement merits recognition. However, let's be clear. Caitlin Clark dismantled a scoring record that had stood for 50 years. In an instant, she transformed a half-century of history with her extraordinary talent, making deep three-johners seem effortless. This isn't just impressive, it's the stuff of legends. While accolades like championships are vital, Clark's remarkable feats redefine what's possible in college basketball and contribute to a legacy that extends far beyond the traditional metrics of success.
As much as people want to say Paige Bueckers is this, Paige Bueckers is that, Paige Bueckers is this, a 500,000 drop-off, okay. A 1.2 million viewer drop-off? Yikes. That I'm not sure if that is.
And here's where it gets even more astonishing. Caitlin Clark didn't just settle for being the scoring leader. She consistently topped the nation in assists as well. Let that sink in. She was delivering the most assists in college basketball while simultaneously breaking scoring records. Imagine if Steph Curry and Chris Paul blended into one unstoppable, record-shattering basketball force. That's the kind of player we're discussing. A rare dual threat who excelled in both creating opportunities and finishing them, a combination seldom seen at this level. Now, for the raw stats, in her final college season, Clark averaged an incredible 31.6 points, 8.9 assists, and 7.4 rebounds, essentially a walking triple-double every night. In contrast, Paige Bueckers posted a solid average of 21.9 points, 3.8 assists, and 5.2 rebounds. While those numbers are impressive, they simply don't carry the same weight as Clark's. It's like one was playing chess, while the other was building the board and defining the rules of the game. Caitlin Clark's multifaceted dominance is a spectacle that truly elevates her legacy and sets a new benchmark in college basketball.
The reactions, people aren't going to let it skip. Now we're not comparing it to 2024, down 49%. Shout out to you, Jar Jar Binks. He had to let him know twice. Big win for the WNBA draft. Yeah, they did over $1 million. Big win. They're closer to 2006 numbers, the 2004 numbers than they were to 2024 numbers. You guys got the point. Why skip 2024? Does 2024 not?
What's even more frustrating is how the media seems intent on downplaying this disparity. Instead of celebrating Caitlin Clark's incredible achievements, they quickly shift the focus to banners and trophies. It's akin to comparing a volcanic eruption to a fireworks display. Both may be visually appealing, but one dramatically reshapes the landscape while the other merely entertains for a short time. Clark's influence transcended mere statistics. She transformed ordinary games into national events. She didn't just fill arenas. She ignited excitement, generated headlines, and created a buzz that permeated the mainstream. A championship wasn't necessary for her to revolutionize the sport. Her remarkable talent and captivating presence brought millions to the game. Her impact was seismic, sending ripples through households that had never previously engaged with women's college basketball. Caitlin Clark has not only redefined the narrative, but also elevated the entire sport, making it impossible to ignore her extraordinary contribution.
Everything is compared to BC, before clock. That's right, we have a BC and we have an AC type of era in the WNBA. Guess 2024 never happened. I wonder why all the numbers are always compared to 2023.
Let's not overlook the circumstances surrounding Caitlin Clark's achievements. She accomplished all of this while being the #1 target every single night. Every team's game plan centered on stopping her box-and-one defenses, triple teams, junk defenses. None of them were effective. Despite the focus on her, everyone knew she would get the ball, yet she continued to dominate. That's the stuff of legends. Most stars falter under such pressure, but Clark thrived in it. Now let's contrast the narrative treatment between her and LeBron James when he broke Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's scoring record. The sports world paused to celebrate him with wall-to-wall coverage, hour-long specials, and think pieces pouring in. Meanwhile, when Clark broke the all-time NCAA scoring record, a record that had stood for 50 years, she received a handful of headlines before the conversation quickly shifted to, yeah, but she doesn't have a ring. Is this truly how we assess greatness now? It's disheartening to see such disparity in recognition and scrutiny.
0.25 isn't dominating. You maybe haven't been following the ratings. 1.25 is a regular Caitlin Clark game on a weekend. That's regular to us. That's nothing. That's nothing to us. It is what it is.
It is this kind of inconsistency that makes you question what's really happening behind the scenes. Both Bueckers and Caitlin Clark are exceptional talents, yet only one is subjected to a barrage of qualifiers and caveats. Clark's facial expressions, competitive spirit, and presence on the court are analyzed and debated relentlessly. In contrast, Bueckers often receives fluff pieces and red carpet adulation. This isn't merely a double standard. It feels like a coordinated PR effort masquerading as journalism. Then you have the WNBA draft presentation this year. If you anticipated a follow-up to last year's glamorous celebration fueled by Caitlin's star power, you were likely left dissatisfied. The elaborate shots and high-budget glitz were replaced by awkward interviews and fashion choices that resembled a TikTok trend rather than a hallmark moment for a professional league. The overall energy was akin to a mid-afternoon nap, lackluster at best. Instead of feeling like a celebration of talent and potential, it felt more like a reset, reinforcing the perception that the spotlight isn't equitably distributed in women's basketball.
Also also noticed that the media has been overwhelmingly positive in their coverage of Paige Bueckers. Now, this is pure speculation on my part, but this is what I think the media is doing. The spankers in the media actually believe that Caitlin Clark is popular because she's white. They think little girls idolize her because she lacks melanin. They think grown men watched women's basketball for the first time because a white girl was dominating the sport. I know for normal people it sounds ridiculous, but this is how our media thinks.
That shift in tone wasn't an accident. It felt like the league was making a deliberate statement. The WNBA seemed to be steering its ship in a different direction, one that appeared strangely resistant to the mainstream momentum Caitlin Clark had created. Fans noticed, and social media exploded with side-by-side comparisons of last year's draft and this year's. The consensus was clear. Where's the energy? Where's the class? Yet, the league offered no substantial explanation, just silence and vague vibes. This wasn't merely a vibe shift, it was a calculated branding decision. The WNBA appears to be trying to redefine its identity, but in doing so it risks sacrificing the very elements that brought it to prominence. Clark didn't just drive viewership, she redefined what was possible in women's sports. Instead of embracing that groundbreaking potential, it seems the WNBA is hedging its bets, opting to ride Paige Bueckers' narrative into a future it can manage more comfortably. This decision could end up stifling the very growth the league hopes to achieve.
Is creating this rivalry between Caitlin Clark and Paige Bueckers, hoping that Paige Bueckers will become the new face of the WNBA. The media will continue demonizing Caitlin Clark while praising her rival. And they're hoping that people will instantly follow Paige Bueckers because she also lacks melanin. You see, the media is fine with Paige being the face of the WNBA because she's already proven to be a loyal comrade. They can depend on her, maybe even control her. They can't do that with Caitlin Clark, either because she is unwilling or she's realized that she does not need the media to be a mainstream draw.
The bias in media coverage becomes strikingly apparent when comparing how Caitlin Clark and Paige Bueckers are treated. Clark is consistently under scrutiny. Every facial expression, defensive rotation, and missed shot is dissected as if she were on trial. Meanwhile, Bueckers seems to be shielded from the same level of critical analysis. She garners praise in every headline, even when her statistics don't quite align with the adoration. Some discussions have even ventured into uncomfortable territory, where Clark's race becomes fodder for criticism, while Bueckers receives a free pass. The disparity in how these two elite athletes are covered has grown so obvious that fans are no longer merely whispering about it, they're voicing their concerns loudly. What should be a healthy rivalry between two talented players feels instead like a media-manufactured spectacle designed for sensationalism rather than allowing the game itself to shine. Rather than uplifting both athletes and celebrating their unique contributions on the court, the narrative often seems fixated on elevating one at the expense of the other. This approach poses a significant risk, as millions of fans who initially tuned in because of Clark are beginning to take notice of this inequity. They are witnessing their favorite player being dismissed and her impact downplayed, and many are choosing not to stick around for what feels like a sidelining of her contributions. That decline in ratings isn't just a number, it reflects a growing disenchantment among fans forced to watch media manipulation unfold before their eyes.
You are about to find out, no offense to the Paige fans, you're going to realize that once this season starts, it's still going to be Caitlin Clark 1 in jersey sales.
Honestly, it didn't have to be this way. Caitlin Clark and Paige Bueckers are both phenomenal athletes in their own right, and together they could form a dynamic 1-2 punch that propels women's basketball to new heights. Their contrasting playing styles, Clark's explosive range and firepower, paired with Bueckers' smooth control and composure, should be celebrated, not pitted against each other. This forced rivalry undermines the authenticity of the game. If the media would simply step back and allow their stories to unfold naturally, we might witness the iconic rivalry the sport truly deserves, one rooted in mutual respect rather than manipulation. If you agree, comment below. If you're excited to see Caitlin Clark back on the court, type CC in the comments. If you enjoyed, leave a like and subscribe. More videos are on screen now.